Your Excellency, Raza Pahlavy, thank you so much for granting us this interview.
Sure, my pleasure. I'm so happy to have this opportunity to speak to your audience.
It takes a lot of courage to come here to Israel.
It's not a matter of courage, it's a matter of conviction. Because we believe that the same liberties that you enjoy in this country and many democracies in this world, where there's a guarantee of freedom of speech, of belief or faith under the rule of law, is something that is dearly missed in our country. And today's generation of Iranians want nothing different than having the same opportunities.
Yeah, yet again, I have to ask you, because we know that the Israeli Mossad, almost on a weekly basis, let's say, managed to prevent terrorist attacks all over Europe, managed to prevent kidnapping attacks of Israelis around the world. And we know that there are journalists, Iranian journalists, who are also being threatened in Europe. You yourself also are getting threats as a representative of the Iranian opposition. Do you feel safe walking around the world?
You know, I'm probably have been desensitized to the idea of a physical threat or assassination or what have you. I've been doing this for 43 years. Frankly, it doesn't even register in my mind. I'm thinking of the young girls who've been chemically targeted in Iranian schools. I'm thinking of people who've been shot in the eye and are afraid to report to a hospital for fear of being identified as a one-time protester and have to bleed their wounds sometimes to death at home. Could you possibly think about threats against yourself when you're faced with this challenge? Of course not. So to me, second nature.
Wow. And you choose to come here on a very special week where we mentioned the Holocaust Memorial Day, the remembrance of the murder of 6 million Jews who were murdered in the Holocaust. Today, actually, Israel's biggest threat is the Iranian regime.
Evil is evil. And for a regime who denies the Holocaust and calls for a country's and a nation's destruction versus a nation that says, we are the children of Cyrus, who helped once, 25 centuries ago, the rebuilding of the temples here in Jerusalem. And are the Iranian people today represented by this regime? Of course not. Which is why the world needs to understand that the solution is not what do we do with this regime.
How should Israel act, in your opinion, against this existential threat around its neck?
I think the leadership in this country and many people around the world, insofar as it relates to Israel proper, is of course an existential threat that this regime has been menacing. But I know they understand that the Iranian people are completely against this regime. Prime Minister Netanyahu has been saying this for years. He understands the equation. He understands that the Iranian people are ultimately the solution. But I'm not limiting this just to what's in the interest of Israel. It's in the interest of Saudi Arabia. It's in the interest of the UAE, our neighbors in the immediate region, and beyond that, the free world.
We've actually seen Prime Minister Netanyahu just came back from a European tour trying to convince European leaders to restore the sanctions towards Iran. Do you support this move?
From day one, sanctions were for a different purpose. We believe that the solution is a complete change of regime, obviously. Which is why I've been saying, look, if your objective is to try to change their behavior, you're just wasting your time. And here we are on the edge of a regime that has continued its enrichment to the point that we are getting very close to, you know, the red line.
And we all remember the warm relations that Israel had with Iran previous 1979. Do you see any chance, or are you optimistic that we will see a different Iran soon?
I'm convinced. Look, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. All I'm saying is that the sooner the better, because every day that goes back, more harm is done to our country.
What could Israel learn from the warmings in the relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran these days?
I don't think we can ever question the fact that all of the neighborhood knows exactly what the nature of this regime is. They may not vocalize it for whatever reason, but it's not that they don't know it. And I think at the end of the day, we're doing everybody a favor. So as far as it relates to your country and our future relationship, that goes without saying. And my fellow compatriots have been, just by monitoring social media, have been so encouraged that finally our voice is heard. There's somebody telling the world and the Israeli people that we Iranians stand with you. We want to be your friends. We want to be in peace. We want to have the same dreams and visions established. And this is what is the true message here of how important this partnership could be. We cannot not succeed, because the consequences of such a thing to fail is a disaster, not just for us, but for the whole planet. And I know that light will triumph over darkness.
And such an incredible message to finish this interview. His Excellency Pahlavy, thank you so much for this interview.
And I thank you for the opportunity.